Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. This is actually episode number 5. So, 5 consecutive weeks we have had an episode published, which I'm actually pretty darn proud about. When I was thinking about what this episode would be about, I couldn't help but make it about happiness. You know, we're going into Thanksgiving. In fact, Thanksgiving is tomorrow as I'm recording this episode. And when I think about happiness, I know that 2 things are true. That happiness is tricky and burnout is real. And so today's episode is entitled The Trickiness of Happiness. And that title actually makes me happy because I think it's a really good title. And so I know that happiness is tricky and burnout is real because in my personal and sometimes quite ambitious quest for happiness, I often find that I burn myself out. And yesterday, when I was sitting down and I was just gotten done doing some reading, and I decided to journal a little bit. And one of the things I wrote was this. I said, instead of giving with my heart and soul, I find that I'm giving my heart and soul. And that small little distinction, that one word of distinction, you may hear that and think it's a semantic. The truth is that words really matter. And in this particular context, the idea of giving with my heart and soul is very different than giving my heart and soul. Because over the last couple of weeks, boy, I've really been overdoing it in a lot of ways. And it's not overdoing it in a bad way. It's like cake is good, right? But too much cake will make you sick. And I've been doing work that has been fulfilling and has been worthwhile and has a positive return in multiple ways. And I do that and I do that and I do that more and then I do that more. Well, it's like eating too much cake. Eventually, the good thing turns in to a negative thing. And so I was reading, there's a book that I really enjoy. It's called The Daily Stoic, and it's a year's worth of meditations, ancient philosophers' meditation, written by a gentleman named Ryan Holiday, he's an outstanding author, and I love his work. And I really love the opportunity to just read like one page of this really dense content that'll really make you think. And one of the things that it pointed out yesterday was the analogy that happiness is like winning a medal in the Olympics. And so, the analogy was when you win a medal in the Olympics, no matter what happens, no matter who beats your record, no matter how long it's been, no one can take away the fact that you won your medal. And happiness is kind of the same way. And the point was that if you've had happiness once, then you have it forever. And for me, it really struck me because there were some times in the last couple of weeks that I have not felt the happiness that I would like to feel. Doing the fulfilling work suddenly started to feel less fulfilling. And it was because I was giving too much of myself. I was giving my heart. I was giving my soul instead of giving with. I was giving out of lack instead of giving out of abundance because I wasn't filling myself back up. I wasn't resting enough. I wasn't re-energized. I wasn't rejuvenated. It was like instead of giving something, I was giving a part of myself. I was giving my arm. I was giving my foot. And so I was depleting myself more the more that I ended up giving. And so for whatever reason, when I got done reading that, I just flipped to a verse or a passage in the New Testament about sowing and reaping. And the passage talks about if you sow sparingly, you'll also reap sparingly. And if you sow generously, you'll also reap generously. And throughout my childhood, I was always taught that passage talked about work ethic and how important it was to work hard, work long, so that your reward would be great. But what I never really paid a lot of attention to was right under that, it talks about that how everyone should give what he or she has decided in their heart to give. Because, and here's what got me, because God loves a cheerful giver. And when I spent time thinking about and writing about this idea, the natural order of sowing and reaping. And so I thought, okay, so my work isn't as physical as sowing and reaping, and perhaps yours isn't as physical as farming, as sowing a seed, tending the field, and then eventually reaping a harvest. There's still a lot of similarities between that and what we do and what you do. And so how that applied to me, and I really got some strong mentoring out of this daily Stoic writing as well as the passage in the New Testament, because when I really stopped to think about it, the picture that I saw in my mind was myself out in this field that I'm trying to tend, this career, this path, this legacy that I'm trying to create, and I want to get a harvest from. And I was throwing out seed, but my seed had run out. And so I was just reaching into this bag of seed and throwing nothing into the dirt and continuing to throw nothing. And the sun is beating down on me, and it's getting late, and I don't have anything that I'm actually giving out. I'm not being productive. I'm not throwing out anything that's ever going to grow. Yet, I was fully prepared to be frustrated if it did not grow. Instead of doing that, it would have made a lot more sense for me to go back home, go back to the barn, refill the seed, take a rest, eat something, go back out, and actually when I'm throwing things out, to throw out seeds and not just throw out nothing into the air. Because the only way something's going to harvest, something's going to grow, is if you're throwing out something that has the ability to grow. And last week I found myself in this really depleted place. I felt like I was emotionally bankrupt, which was making me physically tired. And the problem is sometimes you're more physically tired than emotionally tired. And sometimes you're more emotionally tired than you're physically tired. And the challenge is, how do we balance that? And that's something that I'm literally learning as I go and trying to figure out. But I know that there's a natural order. And so, when I thought about how could I be mentored in this situation, what could I do? I found 3 things that I wrote down, 3 ways to avoid burnout and to be more happy. Because when I think about Thanksgiving, being thankful, having gratitude, I can't think of a better thing to talk about than being happy, being content, being satisfied with who you are, where you are, and what you are. So here's 3 things that I wrote down. The first thing is something that Dale Carnegie said, which was rest before you get tired. And how many of us do not rest? We wait till we're completely depleted. We wait till we're just done. We wait till we have nothing left in the tank. And it's the same as driving a car and not stopping at the gas station, but just keep going until you end up broken down on the side of the road. And then that's when you have to do the hard work, because you have to get your behind out of the car and then walk miles to the next gas station, get your gas, bring it back. It ends up taking more time, taking more effort, taking more energy to not make those stops and fill back up. And so whether that's resting emotionally, getting quiet, turning off, unplugging, or resting physically by going to bed earlier, we have to be willing to rest before we get tired if we hope to avoid burnout and we hope to be generally happy throughout our day-to-day. The second thing is to get out of your head and into your body. I was listening to a podcast with Rob Bell, and he was talking about how most of us only breathe manufactured air. It's either cooled or it's heated through a machine. in our houses, in our offices, in our cars, and we very rarely put our feet in the actual dirt or in the grass. We wear shoes, we wear socks, we do everything we can to keep ourselves clean. We don't eat real food. We process prepackaged food, and so we've disconnected ourselves from the natural order and the natural physicality of life. We don't, when we exercise on a machine. We don't go outside and run or walk and just be inside of nature. Instead, we decide to be inside something else that's in nature, which is a house or a building or something that's manufactured. And you talked about the value. And there's nothing wrong with a treadmill or a cycle bike or living inside. I like to live inside, and I have no intention of living outside. In fact, I'm not a camper. I don't plan to be a camper. I camped when I was a kid, and that was plenty. That was enough. And that doesn't change the fact that sometimes getting back and being aware of the natural order of things, the natural order of life, can be something that really reminds us of some of the things we can be grateful for. It can help center us and help us to remember what are the most important things. And most of the time, when we're feeling burnout, we're feeling tired, we're not feeling as happy as we would like to be, it's because our perspective is on things that aren't the most important things. It's just the thing that we've made most important or we've manufactured to be most important. So the third thing is to become aware of the gifts that you did not earn. Things like your breath, the natural in and out order of your breath. That's one of the reasons why meditation is so valuable and so important and so popular is it just does the simple work of centering us to the gift of something as simplistic and as holistic as our breath. Another thing is our heartbeat. One of the things that I've seen people like Tony Robbins and even therapists do, especially for people that are going through they're in a panic attack state, is they make them aware of their heartbeat. And they make them aware of the fact that they're not earning that heartbeat. They're not doing anything to get it. And as you listen to this, you're not earning that next heartbeat. You're not doing anything. Your heart's just beating. In fact, no one really knows why our hearts continue to beat. And they still continue to beat because our heartbeat is a gift. And every beat is a gift. And it's something that we can be grateful for. And that can make us grateful for every single moment. And that doesn't mean that we're grateful for every single thing. There's bad things that happen. People get sick. People pass away. Tragedies happen. People get hurt. Other humans hurt other humans. And there's things that, of course, we're not going to be grateful for all of those things. Yet, we can still find things to be grateful for in every single moment. It reminds me of a quote that recently I wrote and I put on a sticky note and I posted on the wall over my desk. And it says that it's not happiness that makes us grateful. It's gratefulness that makes us happy. And I love that quote so much. And this Thanksgiving, my hope and my desire for you, as it is for myself, is that we can take time to be grateful for each moment and have a perspective that allows us to rest, rejuvenate, to get out of our head, get into our bodies, hug our loved ones, put our feet in the dirt, breathe some non-machine air, and be happy because we're grateful. And not to expect to be grateful because we're happy. one of the things I'm really grateful for is the ability to share my thoughts, ideas, and opinions on this podcast. So thank you for listening. I'm grateful for you. And I'll leave you with this final idea. Being great starts with being grateful. So go be great.